prose. They are delicately sly, avoiding the front pages of newspapers, secreting themselves on low shelves of libraries, dim corners of bookstores. Their images and metaphors are codes for sedition, primed to explode, to smash perception, rewrite our certainties. Oh, fear their semblance of flat-paged humility. They aim to grasp our beings by the heart.
Now, I think that poem, for me, that poem is the kind of keystone poem of this collection. It is written as if it were a general poem, a general poem about poems. I think it's actually Bill telling us how he writes his poems and the impact he's looking to have with those poems. I reckon, actually, the first line should read, "My poems are dangerous." And if you go to the very end, where he says, of flat-paged humility, they aim to grasp our beings by the heart, I think that encapsulates what Bill aims to do and what he, in many of the poems in this, what he aims to do in many poems, not all of them, but many of them. And in this collection, I think you will find many poems in which he exactly achieves that aim to grasp our beings by the heart. So that's why I think this is, for me anyway, the capstone poem of the collection. Bill has a particular ability to look at familiar situations and well-known stories and turn them and present them back to us as a poem, which changes our perception of that well-known story or that familiar situation. And there's an example in here in which he has done it for no less a figure or no less a poem than Homer's Odyssey. And so now he's going to read to you Penelope After Dinner.
You might remember from school days the stories of the Trojan Wars, and you may remember how the hero Ulysses, or Odysseus as he's called in the Greek, went off to fight the people in Troy, and he left his wife Penelope at home lamenting, or in her palace, and waiting for years and years and years while he had all these adventures, or adventures that he claimed he had. But eventually he comes home, and this is what Penelope says to him after dinner. "Are you sure you didn't dream this? Cyclops too dumb to know what you're up to? It seems all the witnesses drowned on the way home. The guests, thrilled by the horse trick, now weep for Calypso. And your tale about the sirens, they love that one. While I spin, you embroider. As for the beautiful Circe being all over you, look in the mirror. No doubt she gladly pushed you out to sea. Or as your version has it, Odysseus escapes again."
Poor Odysseus. After all those adventures, he returns home and he gets skewered by Bill Rush disguised as his wife. It's not just familiar stories that Bill can turn around for us. He can also do it with familiar situations. And the poem that he's going to read in a moment is not just a familiar situation, it is an intensely irritating situation that I think many of you will have experienced. But it gets transformed. Wait till you get to the end of the poem. And it is called Airport Check.
Yes, well, I'm sure we've all suffered this situation, going through the airport and going through all the security checks we have to go through today. It's good.
Bill, just before you start, people are looking in their books, so we ought to tell them it's page 3.
Page 3, sorry. Airport check. This is Heraclean in Crete. Why choose me from all these others? Perhaps with 5 o'clock shadow and half-closed eyes, my passport life now reads like a story too good to be true. Probing my cabin bag, it seems it's not enough. Someone waves a wand over my torso, back and front, ask me to raise my arms like wings. So I comply. Unflappable Icarus, ready once more to soar towards the sun.
Bill can take the mundane and transform it to the lyrical, he can also go in the other direction. And I want him to read hellebores, and you wait for the sting in the end of hellebores.
Hellebores. Well, this one is actually dedicated to my sister Julie. It's on page 8, who knows a great deal more about gardening than I do. But here we are, hellebores. What is it about hellebores that they hang their heads so meekly, as if there were a bunch of shameful secrets in their modest pasts? Maybe they're just feeling homesick from the dew-drenched slopes of the Balkans. Look how they keep their heads down, fixed on the soil, only here and there shooting shy widget rose glances upwards like a row of Princess Dianas. Could be a neurosis. A course of osmocote might make them stand proud and purposeful as the thrusting jonquils in the next bed.
Amongst Bill's poems, I find I quite often come upon one in which there is what I might call a wry melancholy. And sometimes that wry melancholy is in the words of a person, in this collection, Marilyn Monroe. Sometimes it's in the thoughts of a mythical creature, Pegasus, in this collection. And sometimes it's even in the dreams of inanimate objects. And in this collection, we hear from the Weeping Woman. Now, this is a poem based on the Picasso painting that was stolen from the National Gallery of Victoria in 1986. So listen, see if you hear what I hear, which, as I said, is wry melancholy in The Weeping Woman.
I think many of you will remember this incident. I think it finished up in Spencer Street Railway Station, if I remember right.
In a locker.
Yes, in the locker, that's right. The Weeping Woman, Pablo Picasso, 1937, stolen from the National Gallery of Victoria in 1986. It was a relief for her to rest in the railway locker, not to be gawked at all day. She knew she was expensive, though hundreds, she could tell, went away puzzled. Some thought she was a joke or a canvas comment on a day when she'd got out of bed on the wrong side. Few ascribed beauty. Asleep in dark confinement, she had dreams of plastic surgery. After this, the heart angles would be rounded, her nose centred, the puce lips softened with the faintest of faint smiles, and the sign at the left of the frame would read, "The Green Gioconda."
I need to warn people now that if you are a highly opinionated atheist, now might be the time to look away. Because, as many of you would know, Bill is a practicing Christian. There is no direct reference to religion in this collection, save for one poem. And in that poem, he has written his version of Psalm 29. Now, there may be one or two of you who might have a little trouble bringing immediately to mind the words of Psalm 29. So let me paraphrase it for you. It's in the psalm, the poet portrays the word of God as the wind, or perhaps the other way around. Anyway, he describes the voice of God as the wind, and he also describes how that voice of God has an impact on the real world in which we live. Bill has turned this around in The Wind's Prayer, and the wind speaks to God, and I think produces an exquisitely beautiful poem, or at least I thought so. Phil.
This is on page 33. The Wind's Prayer. I thank you that you have not made me with flesh and form bound to the earth. I praise you for my invisible strength to bend the branch and fan the flame, so I'm free to touch all things. I pray for those created in your image. Let them hear in the storm. Let them hear when I'm still. May they praise Yahweh forever.
Now, we could go on for a very long time having these readings, but I think you would be much better off discovering these poems for yourself and not having to put up with my interjections as we go through them. So we'll bring this launch to an end. It remains for me to say to Bill, congratulations on your achievement with these poems, which I think is a very considerable achievement, and to commend Interactive Press for having the discernment to to publish these poems. And I suppose I should also add to urge you, if you've already bought one, why don't you buy some more so that your friends can share in the pleasure of reading Bill Rush's poems. Thank you.